Have you ever found yourself watching someone talk about money on YouTube and thinking, how did this person actually get there? Like, what does this person do day to day to put them in that position? It's easy to listen to financial advice. And if you've been around this channel for a bit, you already know that I'm not here to gatekeep any of that. That's just not how I operate. I'd rather be transparent about what's worked to get me in the financial position that I am in today. So, in this video, I want to pull back the curtain a bit and walk you through what I do working in oil and gas, how I got into investing early on as an engineer, and the key realizations along the way that have played a big role in both my career and my finances. So, how I actually got into the oil and gas industry wasn't anything out of the ordinary. It really came down to putting myself in the right position and then capitalizing on an opportunity when it showed up. Because I got in through networking and landing an internship while I was still in college. Looking back, there were a few key things that made that possible. And I go way deeper on this topic in my college to six figures video, if you want that full breakdown. But at a high level, I was keeping my grades solid, so I at least had a shot at landing an internship. Then I worked on improving my social skills so I could actually hold conversations, I could stand out, and I could present myself like someone who companies would want to hire. And then I was completely open to moving wherever the opportunity was instead of limiting myself geographically. And that combination is really what opened the door for me to land a job in oil and gas. Once I got that internship and proved myself, it turned into a full time offer with the same company, and I ended up stepping straight out of college into a project management role, making six figures. Now, what I actually do as a project manager is that I'm responsible for running capital and expense projects inside of an oil refinery, which is honestly pretty complex in a fast moving environment. And in that role, you're constantly balancing a lot at once. You've got to manage your time, you got to coordinate a ton of different people across departments, you got to stay on budget with your projects, and still hit aggressive project schedules. And I'll be real, it took me a while to get my feet under me because the technical side is one thing, but the hardest part of the job, and still is to this day, is dealing with different personalities and learning how to communicate effectively with all of them. You're not just solving technical problems, you're leading people, you're making decisions quickly, and you're figuring out solutions that don't always have a clear answer. Honestly, the leadership side of the job has been the most rewarding part for me. Just watching that skill develop over time and even getting the chance to mentor a handful of co ops along the way. I thought that was a really cool part of the job. And then when it comes to how I got into finances as an engineer, this is where things really started to click for me. When I first started working and thinking like an engineer, my mindset was basically, all right, I'm making good money now. Now, how do I optimize this? And I didn't know much about investing at all at the time. But I did have a few mentors at work who told me to max out my 401k, and I'm not going to lie, I pretty much just blindly followed that advice. If there's one piece of blind advice that paid off, it was just that one. Because from there, I started educating myself through YouTube and books, and just slowly started building an understanding of how money and personal finance works. I had this realization early on that even though I liked my job, I didn't want to be doing it forever. So I got serious about my finances. I kept my expenses low in my early years of my career by living with roommates for those first few years out of college. That saved me a ton of money on rent. And I paired that with consistently investing, and I had a disciplined mindset around that. I also lived below my means. I still had fun, but I lived below my means. And over time, that's what allowed me to grow my net worth from around $10,000 starting my job right out of college to over $200,000 in my first 4 years. And now I'm past the $300,000 mark. And yeah, the salary definitely helped a bit. But the bigger shift, I believe, was how I started thinking about money and actually taking control of my finances. So now I want to get into some of the real pros and cons of what I like about my job because it's very easy to look at that high salary that I have, look at the benefits, and think that I've made it. But what people don't always talk about are the trade offs that come with a job like this. And I want to give you my honest experience so you watching this video can see if you want to go down a similar path that I took. One of the biggest cons, and this applies across pretty much the entire oil and gas industry, is how cyclical and unpredictable things can be. And even though refining tends to be more stable than upstream oil and gas, it's still tied to the bigger global picture. And you can feel that in real time with things like geopolitical tensions, because this is a global industry at the end of the day. And what that means is things can be rolling so smoothly one minute with strong budgets, active projects, active hiring, and then all of a sudden things tighten up Your projects will get delayed, hiring will slow down, oil and gas demand goes down in the United States, and you start to feel that uncertainty kind of creep in. And being in that kind of environment forces you to think differently about your money and your personal finances, whether you want to or not. For me, it's made me double down on investing aggressively while times are good, and it's made me build a very strong emergency fund as a buffer. While at the same time, I know that I still have to perform at a high level to stay competitive, which is something I've leaned into with earning a couple promotions and even relocating to a new job site. While the industry that I'm working in is not quite as volatile as something like, let's say, big tech, it's definitely an industry where you have to stay sharp and be ready to adapt. Another downside before we get into the pros is the mental load that comes with the job. You're constantly solving problems, you're constantly managing people, handling the pressure, and being accountable for how your projects turn out, whether it's your fault or not. And over time, that starts to wear on you in a different way where it's less physical and more mental. And you start asking yourself, is this something you want to sustain at full intensity for the next 20 or 30 years? Do you even have the brain power to keep going like this? And for me, that's where I started taking my financial literacy and financial understanding more seriously. I didn't just want a high income, I wanted flexibility and options in my life, which is why I focused on building investments and additional income streams outside of my 9 to 5. And I'll be honest, there have been plenty of days where I come home just mentally drained, not physically exhausted, but just mentally tapped out. It can feel like you're going through the motions, and on top of that, while you're not technically on call all the time, when something goes wrong in a refinery, you can get pulled in and be working long, unpredictable hours. So it's one of those roles that demands a lot from you, especially when things don't go according to plan. I have no intentions of leaving the job that I have now anytime soon, but I think it's important to always be striving for more, even if you do have a nice, high paying, comfortable job. I think it's important to take your finances seriously so that if you do hit that wall and burn out, you have some options because you're financially stable. I see it way too often where high earners have this lavish lifestyle and they kind of just trap themselves into a 9 to 5 because they are essentially just living paycheck to paycheck. I think that's ridiculous. Now, on the flip side, one of the biggest pros of working in oil and gas, and honestly, this is the reason a lot of people are drawn to it in the first place, is the earning potential and how fast you can accelerate your financial situation and your career if you do well in your job. It's not just that you're making a good salary, it's that you have the opportunity to make really strong money early in your career compared to a lot of the other industries. If you combine that with even a basic level of financial discipline, it can completely change your financial trajectory, and it certainly did with mine. The job that I have now allowed me to invest aggressively, it allowed me to max out my retirement accounts, and it built me up a solid financial foundation way faster than I would have had otherwise. And that is something that I don't take for granted at all. Another big pro, and this is something, again, I just didn't fully appreciate when I first started, is just how much this project management job that I have forces me to grow as a leader and a problem solver. As a project manager in oil and gas, you're in the middle of real operations, making decisions that actually matter and have a direct impact. You're constantly working with experienced operators, engineers, contractors, and you're being pushed to communicate your thoughts very clearly. You got to be thinking on your feet, and you got to figure things out when there is not a perfect answer. That kind of environment accelerates your career development way faster than a lot more traditional or slower paced jobs because you're gaining real world experience managing budgets, timelines, people all at once. Over time, that builds a skill set that's extremely valuable and transferable to any job or industry. For me personally, that's just been one of the most rewarding parts of the job. Just seeing how much more confident and capable I've become compared to when I first started. So that's all I have for this video. If you enjoy the content and liked hearing the background on how I got to where I'm at today career wise and financially wise, leave a like and comment down below if you have any questions. Also, leave a comment down below what career you are in and what you like most about it and what you dislike most about it. As always, thanks for supporting the channel, and I'll see you all in the next one.